Emmitt Brown tossed in his bed, sending his sheets tangling around his feet. Figured. At least now they matched his feelings. He stared up at the white ceiling, wishing his mind could be as blank as the canvas above him. The conversation from a few hours earlier replayed in his mind like a broken record. An accusing, broken record. "You know what I've decided?" Matt Johnson, the defensive line leader, asked as he lifted his glass. Around the table, the men shook their heads. It had been a long day after attending the funeral for their owner's wife, who'd almost been like a surrogate mother to them all. She always invited new recruits over for dinner and often brought cookies to practices. She was a ray of light for the team of mostly men who often let practice and games wear them down. 2 months ago, she had been fine. Then she'd announced that she had a rare form of cancer. She'd told them all with a smile on her face and a confidence in her voice that made them believe she would beat it. But it had taken her instead. Something in the chemo treatment had set off an infection in her body, and within hours, Leo, the owner, was taking her off life support and saying goodbye. The rest of the team didn't even get to make it to the hospital before it was all over. "I've decided life is too short to live with regret. Diana always lived life to the fullest, and though she was taken too soon, maybe we can all have the second chance she didn't get. I know I've got things in my past I wish I had handled differently, and I bet you all do too. So I'm going to spend the time off making those things right. Who's with me?" Emmitt glanced around at his fellow teammates. He too had things in his past that he wasn't proud of, but he wasn't sure if he was ready to face his greatest regret. Matt held his fist over the center of the table, like he always did before they exited a huddle and ran out onto the field. "What do you guys say? How about we spend this time before Christmas making things right, making Diana proud of us?" Jordan White, middle linebacker, nodded and placed his hand on top of Matt's. "I'm in." Andrew Markham, always the hesitant one, leaned back and ran his hand across his chin. "Matt, I don't know. Sometimes it's better if stuff in the past stays in the past." Emmitt could understand that viewpoint. The stuff in his past was more than he was sure he could face again, much less in just 7 days. Sid Lawson, strong sideback and the epitome of the strong silent type, grunted in his usual manner, but put his fist in too. "Fine." That meant it was Emmitt's turn. He couldn't say no. It would raise too many questions. But how could he respond without having to face his shameful past? Deflection. It worked wonders on the field. Maybe it would work with the guys too. "We always have things we can ask forgiveness for." Andrew sighed but placed his hand in as well. "You know we're all in this together." He punctuated his words with a friendly eye roll. Matt smiled at them as he looked from one man to the other. "We make amends. For Diana." "For Diana," the men echoed, and for a moment Emmitt was bolstered by their camaraderie. Maybe he could do this. So Matt had regrets, but didn't they all? Still, why did he have to recommend they go home and face them? And why had Emmitt agreed? He had spent the last few years running from his regrets, and he wasn't sure he was ready to go back yet. Had he changed enough? He'd been working hard on becoming a better man. In fact, it was what had driven him to God. And he knew that part of making that transition completely was apologizing to those he had hurt. Still, every time he thought about it, he chickened out. Mantras of what he'd done was too awful, he hadn't changed enough, or apologizing wouldn't change anything, blazed in his head. Though Emmitt knew none of those were true, the words played over and over, crippling him, his kryptonite. With a sigh, he reached for his Bible. When the demons reared up in his head like this, the only way to quiet them was to immerse himself in God's Word.